I want to ask a question, a couple of questions, and I'm going to begin with a question for Dr. Larry Hart, and it's about Pell Grants and the expanded Pell Grant accessibility for short-term programs. On this committee, my passion, one of my couple of passions, I guess, is career and technical education. I think we've sort of perpetrated a myth that post-high school has to be college, when what we know, I'm the son of an iron worker and welder, is what we know is that there are all kinds of career and technical programs where there's significant need in the workforce, and yet the availability of financial aid for some of those programs is dramatically different. Pell Grants, for example, if you income qualify, but the course that's being offered is not the length of a college semester, you can't get a Pell Grant for that kind of a course. Senator Portman and I have a bill in that we hope to include as we have the Higher Ed Act discussion that would make Pell Grants available for shorter term courses, so long as they're highly rigorous and verified. And we believe that would be a real accessibility accelerator for students. I wonder what you might think about that.
Local businesses in Amarillo would agree with you 100%. The biggest jobs in my community, diesel mechanics, aviation mechanics, truck driving, transportation logistics, those are all accelerated programs for us. Truck driving started out as a content ed program ineligible for any financial aid. Those lead to jobs in our community from $60,000 to $100,000 a year with an investment of 6 weeks to 6 months. Yet students can't afford, without federal aid and support, to enter into those programs. So they enter in a program that takes longer or may not meet the economic needs of our community. And any aid that would allow students to enter those high-demand fields and give colleges the flexibility to accelerate their learning meets an economic need in my community.
Appreciate that. Any other panelists have thoughts on that particular point?
I would just echo that the importance of having some flexibility in terms of the Pell Grant for the reality of today's students is very critical.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Chingos, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I agree with you completely. I think the challenge is how do you let in the good programs but not open up the floodgates so that we're here 10 years from now talking about all these people who are claiming to do CTE and left people in debt with no good jobs.
I think that's a really important point. Yeah. Ms. Darkus, I have a question for you about public service loan forgiveness, if I could direct it your way. This program was created by Congress during the Bush administration, and it allows public servants to have loans forgiven. We've had a little bit of testimony about it. There might have been some when I was at an earlier hearing. For 10 years of qualifying monthly payments, the first set of borrowers has become eligible for loan forgiveness within the last few months, and there have been some stories about glitches that have been difficult. The New York Times highlighted a common technicality preventing some public service employees from qualifying for the program because they unknowingly were in the wrong repayment plan. How do we deal with that issue, and are there other barriers that prevent students from receiving anticipated forgiveness that we should look to clear up as we engage in a higher ed rewrite?
Forgiveness programs like public service loan forgiveness are incredibly vital. They support our economy. Public interest lawyers like myself, many folks who are delivering services to low-income borrowers rely on public service loan forgiveness so they can afford their own livelihood. So we should certainly hold servicers accountable for doing their jobs. And this is just another window into the very, very common problems folks have during repayment. So enforcement, public enforcement and private enforcement to ensure that students and borrowers are able to access critical benefits like forgiveness is incredibly essential.
Other comments on loan forgiveness? Yeah, Ms. Kaine and then Dr. Chingos.
Yes, I'll just add that we see for many of our students who are low income that they want to give back to their communities, absolutely. And losing the option of loan forgiveness is going to change what they can choose to do in the communities that they want to serve. This is the very thing we want to be having available in our country to lift America up.
Thank you. Dr. Chingos.
So I'm the Grinch who thinks we ought to get rid of the public service loan forgiveness program. And the reason I think that is because I think it provides arbitrary benefits, benefits that can be unfair. I think if you want to support public interest lawyers, you ought to create a grant program for public interest lawyers, maybe for public interest lawyers from low-income families, folks you want to help get into certain fields, or you want to provide wage subsidies to people in certain fields. You ought to do that directly. But to do it through a loan forgiveness program, I think is not the most efficient way to do it, not the most effective way to do it, and is outside the core mission of income-driven repayment, which is really to provide insurance for people against payments they can't afford.
Thank you. I'm over my time. Thanks.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Senator Kaine.